Nick Aldis reveals Jacob Fatu's real attacker after shocking WWE SmackDown incident. Nick Aldis just dropped the most explosive bombshell in SmackDown history by revealing the identity of Jacob Fatu's mysterious attacker, and who it turned out to be has completely shattered the bloodline's internal structure, exposed months of secret betrayal and manipulation, and created a situation so volatile that Roman Reigns himself is reportedly questioning whether he can trust anyone in his own family anymore. What SmackDown's general manager revealed wasn't just the answer to a whodunit mystery, it was proof of a conspiracy so deep and so calculated that it's been unfolding right under everyone's noses for months, and the attacker's identity explains so many strange occurrences and suspicious moments that suddenly make perfect sense in the most devastating way possible. But here's what's going to absolutely destroy you and make you question everything you've watched over the past year. The person who attacked Jacob Fatu wasn't a rival faction member, wasn't someone from outside the bloodline seeking revenge, and wasn't even an enemy of Roman Reigns trying to weaken his empire. The attacker was someone inside the bloodline, a trusted family member who's been systematically working to destabilize Roman's organization from within, and whose motivations for betraying the family are so personal and so justified that even fans who love the bloodline are finding themselves sympathizing with someone who committed one of the most cowardly acts in WWE history. The most shocking part is how Nick Aldis figured out who the attacker was and what evidence he presented that made the revelation absolutely undeniable. According to sources backstage, Aldis conducted a weeks-long investigation using security footage, witness testimony, and forensic analysis that would make actual law enforcement jealous, and when he finally revealed his findings during SmackDown, the attention to detail and the mountain of evidence was so overwhelming that even the attacker couldn't deny what they'd done. This wasn't a storyline twist that required suspension of disbelief, this was a methodical presentation of facts that proved beyond any doubt who was responsible and why they did it. And Roman Reigns' reaction to learning the identity of Jacob Fatu's attacker is what has everyone questioning whether the tribal chief can maintain control of the bloodline or if this betrayal from within his own family is the beginning of the empire's collapse. According to witnesses, when Roman saw the evidence and heard the attacker's justification for what they did, the tribal chief didn't explode in anger or immediately seek revenge. He went completely silent in a way that suggested he was processing something that challenged his entire understanding of loyalty, family, and what holding power actually costs the people forced to serve under someone else's ambition. The question that's tearing apart the WWE universe is this: can you betray someone who's been controlling and manipulating you through fear and obligation, or is attacking a family member from behind always wrong regardless of your grievances with the family's leader? Let me tell you exactly what happened during this shocking SmackDown revelation, who attacked Jacob Fatu and why, and what this means for the bloodline's future. The mystery of Jacob Fatu's attack had been one of SmackDown's most compelling storylines for weeks. Jacob, one of the bloodline's most physically dominant and loyal enforcers, was found brutally assaulted backstage before a crucial match, injured severely enough that he'd be out of action for an extended period. The attack appeared random and motiveless, with no witnesses and no clear suspects. Roman Reigns took the attack personally, viewing it as an assault on the bloodline's strength and credibility. He demanded that SmackDown GM Nick Aldis conduct a full investigation and identify the culprit so Roman could deliver appropriate justice. The tribal chief made it clear he suspected rival factions or enemies outside the family were responsible, but Nick Aldis approached the investigation with professional skepticism rather than accepting Roman's assumptions. He reviewed security footage from multiple camera angles, interviewed every wrestler and staff member who'd been in the building that night, and analyzed the attack itself for clues about the attacker's identity, motivation, and methods. What Aldis discovered during his investigation was far more complex and disturbing than a simple assault. The evidence suggested this wasn't a random attack or an act of external aggression, it was a calculated strike by someone who knew Jacob's schedule, knew exactly where he'd be and when, and knew how to attack him in a way that would cause maximum damage while avoiding detection. The breakthrough in the investigation came when Aldis noticed something in the security footage that everyone else had missed, a brief reflection in a mirror that captured the attacker's distinctive clothing and build. By cross-referencing the glimpse with other footage from throughout the arena, Aldis was able to track the attacker's movements before and after the assault, building a timeline that revealed shocking premeditation. During Friday Night SmackDown, Nick Aldis called a mandatory meeting in the ring with the entire bloodline present: Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, the remaining healthy members, and notably, the person Aldis had identified as Jacob Fatu's attacker but hadn't yet publicly revealed. Aldis began by explaining his investigative process and the evidence he'd gathered. He showed video clips on the arena screens displaying the reflection that had been the initial clue, footage of the attacker moving through backstage areas before the assault, and security camera angles that captured the attack itself from perspectives that made the attacker's identity unmistakable to anyone paying close attention. The tension in the arena was unbearable as Aldis methodically built his case, and the bloodline members were clearly trying to process what they were seeing. Roman's expression shifted from confident authority to growing concern as he realized where this presentation was heading. Then Nick Aldis delivered the revelation that changed everything: the person who attacked Jacob Fatu, who put him in the hospital and potentially threatened his career, who betrayed the bloodline from within, is standing in this ring right now. And based on the evidence I'm about to show you, there can be no doubt about their identity or their guilt. Aldis revealed the attacker's identity, and the person he named was a bloodline member whose position within the family seemed secure and whose loyalty had never been publicly questioned. The revelation sent shockwaves through the arena and created immediate chaos in the ring as the accused attacker's face confirmed their guilt before they could even speak. But what happened next was what transformed this from a simple mystery solution into something far more complex and morally ambiguous. The attacker didn't deny what they'd done, didn't make excuses or claim they were framed. Instead, they grabbed a microphone and delivered one of the most emotionally powerful and justified explanations for betrayal that WWE has ever aired. The attacker addressed Roman directly. "Yes, I attacked Jacob. Yes, I planned it carefully and executed it when I knew I wouldn't be caught. And yes, I'd do it again if I had to. But before you pass judgment on me, before you condemn me as a traitor and excommunicate me from the family, you need to understand why I did it and what serving in your bloodline has actually cost the people you claim to care about." The attacker's voice was shaking with emotion. "You talk about family and loyalty and the importance of acknowledging the tribal chief. But what you've actually created is a hierarchy where you're at the top making all the decisions and taking all the glory, while the rest of us are just soldiers who sacrifice our bodies and our careers to serve your ambition. Jacob was your most loyal enforcer, taking punishment in matches to protect your interests, working through injuries because you demanded it, never questioning your authority even when your orders put him at risk." The indictment of Roman's leadership continued, and what did that loyalty get Jacob? He was expendable. He was a tool you used and discarded when it was convenient. When he needed support or protection or recognition for everything he'd sacrificed for you, where were you? You were focused on your championship, your legacy, your position. The bloodline isn't a family, it's a dictatorship where you're the dictator and everyone else exists to serve your ego. The attacker's justification for the assault was chilling in its logic. "I attacked Jacob not because I hate him, but because I needed to wake everyone up to what serving Roman Reigns actually means. I needed to show that the tribal chief can't protect his own people, that loyalty to him is a death sentence for your career and your well-being. Jacob was my message to everyone in the bloodline, and everyone watching. Following Roman will destroy you, and someone needed to start fighting back before we all get sacrificed for his ambition." Roman's response to this accusation was notable for what it wasn't. He didn't immediately attack, didn't rage about betrayal, didn't order the attacker destroyed by the other bloodline members. Instead, he looked genuinely affected by the criticism, as if hearing his leadership described this way forced him to confront truths he'd been avoiding about how he treats the people who serve him. The confrontation created immediate division within the bloodline. Some members clearly sided with Roman, viewing the attacker's justification as manipulative rationalization for betrayal. Others looked conflicted, as if the attacker's words resonated with their own experiences of being undervalued and overworked while serving the tribal chief's interests. Solo Sikoa's response was particularly significant. As Roman's enforcer and the person most directly responsible for maintaining order within the bloodline, Solo was expected to immediately condemn the attacker. Instead, he asked the question everyone was thinking: if you felt this way, if you had these problems with how Roman runs things, why didn't you just leave? Why attack Jacob instead of walking away? The attacker's response revealed the true depth of the bloodline's dysfunction. "Because you can't just leave. Roman makes sure of that. Anyone who tries to walk away gets labeled a traitor, gets buried in booking, gets made an example of so nobody else gets ideas about independence. The only way to be free of the bloodline is to destroy it from within, and that's exactly what I'm doing." Now here's the question that's going to determine whose side you're on. Was the attacker justified in assaulting Jacob Fatu if it was truly motivated by legitimate grievances about Roman's toxic leadership, or is attacking an innocent family member from behind always wrong regardless of your issues with the person in charge? Your answer reveals whether you believe ends can justify means and whether revolution against oppressive leadership justifies collateral damage to innocent people. Here's the even more controversial question: is Roman Reigns actually responsible for creating an environment where someone felt attacking a family member was their only option to be heard, or is the attacker just making excuses for their cowardly behavior? Because there's a legitimate argument that Roman's authoritarian leadership style and his treatment of bloodline members as expendable tools created the conditions that led to this betrayal. But there's also a case that attacking Jacob, who was following orders and didn't deserve to be targeted, is indefensible regardless of grievances with Roman. Tell me in the comments, do you sympathize with the attacker's motivations even if you condemn their methods, or do you think they're simply a traitor trying to justify betrayal? And here's what I really want to know: can the bloodline survive this revelation, or has the exposure of internal resentment and justified grievances against Roman's leadership doomed the faction to inevitable collapse? Aldis revealing Jacob Fatu's attacker wasn't just solving a mystery, it exposed fundamental problems with how Roman Reigns runs the bloodline and whether his authoritarian leadership style creates loyalty or resentment among the people forced to serve his ambition. The attacker's justification raised uncomfortable questions about whether Roman actually cares about his family or just uses family obligation to control people who can't escape without being destroyed professionally. And the division within the bloodline about whether the attacker was a traitor or a revolutionary suggests that these internal tensions have been building for far longer than anyone realized. What happens next will determine whether Roman can maintain control through fear and obligation, or whether the Bloodline's foundation is so damaged by revealed resentment that the Empire will crumble from within regardless of how powerful the tribal chief appears from the outside.